Amara Carter's heart pounded as she stood in the dimly lit gas station, her fingers wrapped tightly around her last $8. The decision loomed over her: buy food for her sick mother or save a stranger's life. When a massive Hell's Angel biker collapsed before her, gasping for breath, she was faced with an impossible choice. She had no idea how her decision would send ripples through her world, but one thing was certain: someone was dying, and only she could save him. Amara froze for just a second, torn between survival and instinct. Her $8 could mean a meal, or it could mean her mother's medical care for one more day. But when the man's chest stopped moving, something deep within her shifted. This wasn't just a biker. This was a human being, and he was dying in front of her. Her heart raced, the weight of her decision pressing against her chest. She couldn't walk away. The gas station attendant shouted from the doorway, "Don't get involved. Those guys are nothing but trouble." But the voice in her head was stronger. The man needed help. And that $8, her last bit of money, wasn't for a meal or medicine. It was for a life. If you are hooked in, please let me know in the comments where you are watching from, and please like and subscribe. Now let us begin. Amara rushed inside and bought water and aspirin with her last $8, then knelt beside the biker. She didn't know who he was. She didn't know the consequences. All she knew was that he needed her. That night, Amara's simple act of kindness, her choice to help a stranger without hesitation, would change her life forever. That night, Amara's simple act of kindness, her choice to help a stranger without hesitation, would change her life forever. She found him slumped against his motorcycle, gasping. Without thinking, she rushed to a nearby gas station, spending her last $8 on aspirin and water. "Those bikers are trouble," the attendant warned. But Amara didn't hesitate. She knelt beside the dying man called Hawk, pressing the pills into his trembling hand. His grateful eyes met hers as his breathing steadied. She had no idea this moment would reshape everything. Morning came with an unexpected knock. Hawk stood at her door, no longer gasping but standing tall and purposeful. "I lead Lily's legacy," he explained. "We help families like yours." Amara blinked in disbelief. The dying biker she'd saved wasn't just anyone. He ran a nonprofit dedicated to lifting struggling people from despair. Hawk's eyes softened. "You gave everything to save a stranger. Now let me return the favor." She had no idea this moment would reshape everything. Morning came with an unexpected knock. Hawk stood at her door, no longer gasping but standing tall and purposeful. "I lead Lily's legacy," he explained. "We help families like yours." Amara blinked in disbelief. The dying biker she'd saved wasn't just anyone. He ran a nonprofit dedicated to lifting struggling people from despair. Hawk's eyes softened. "You gave everything to save a stranger. Now let me return the favor." The next day, thunder rolled through the neighborhood, not from the sky, but from 100 roaring motorcycles. Neighbors peered fearfully through curtains as the bikers lined Amara's street. Children were pulled inside. Whispers of danger spread. But Hawk dismounted with a smile, his crew carrying boxes of food, supplies, and hope. "We're here to help," he announced loudly. The Hell's Angels hadn't come to intimidate. They'd come to give back. "I apologize for the confusion. I actually already wrote Chapter 5 and added it to your artifact in my previous response. Here it is again for reference." Inside her apartment, Hawk laid out an envelope thick with promise. "Your mother's medical bills, your rent, covered," he said firmly. "But there's more." Amara's hands trembled. "We want you to join Lily's legacy. Work with us. Help families like yours." Tears streamed down her face. The girl who had nothing to give had given everything, and now everything was being given back. A job. Hope. Purpose. At first, neighbors whispered behind closed doors, eyeing the bikers with suspicion. But Hawk gathered everyone in the parking lot, explaining Lily's legacy, how they'd helped hundreds of struggling families escape poverty's grip. Mrs. Chen's scowl softened. Mr. Rodriguez nodded with understanding. "They're not criminals," someone murmured. "They're angels." As acceptance bloomed around her, Amara felt the weight of judgment lift. She stood taller, ready to embrace her new purpose. Amara accepted the job with trembling hands and a full heart. Within weeks, she was coordinating food drives, connecting families with resources, transforming desperation into hope. Her mother's health improved with proper treatment. Their rent was secure. But the greatest transformation was the neighborhood itself. Inspired by Lily's legacy, neighbors began helping each other, sharing meals, watching children, offering rides. Fear had given way to fellowship. Amara smiled, realizing the truth. One act of kindness had sparked a revolution of compassion. 6 months later, a community center opened on her street, Lily's Legacy's newest project. Inside, families received job training, medical care, and hot meals. Single mothers found childcare. Veterans accessed counseling. Hope replaced hopelessness. Amara stood at the ribbon-cutting ceremony, surrounded by neighbors whose lives had changed. One act of kindness, $8 and a stranger's life, had created waves that touched hundreds. She finally understood, compassion wasn't just powerful. It was transformative. It was everything. 1 year later, Amara stood before the Clark house, named in her honor. Her mother, now healthy, squeezed her hand. Hawk beamed proudly. Neighbors who once feared her now celebrated her courage. "You taught us something," Hawk told the crowd. "That kindness isn't weakness. It's the strongest force on earth." Amara looked around at the transformed neighborhood, at lives rebuilt and hearts restored. One choice. One stranger. One act of love. Everything had changed. How many times have we judged too quickly? If this story moved you, don't just watch, act. Help someone this week. Leave a comment. Tell me about a time kindness changed your life. If you believe in second chances and communities lifting each other up, hit that like button. Subscribe. Share this story because the more people who see this, the more kindness spreads.